can put it online. And then I'm going to go ahead. We have a lot of staff joining us, but I'm going to have them introduce themselves after our short presentation, just so in case people join late, that everyone knows who they need to talk to and contact for our grant program. So again, welcome. I'm Shauna Warner with Neighborhood Services, and today we're going to do a brief overview of our Marion Porter Neighborhood Grant process, talk through some completed projects, and then really the time today is for you to meet all of our amazing Tempe staff that help us out with this process and are really your best resource for a lot of specifics on projects depending on the type you guys decide to apply for. So again, we'll go ahead and have them introduce themselves after the presentation just to make sure we have everyone in the meeting. All right, Laura, if we want to move forward. So our neighborhood grant program, I see that we are joined by some of our longtime neighborhood chairs or leaders that have applied for many grants and been successful. But for those of you who may be new to the program, our mayor and council do set aside a portion of the city budget for our neighborhoods to talk through as a community what's important to them, what they would want to see improved, and then you're able to apply for a grant to make that improvement happen. A key to the program is that resident participation, involvement in selection, coordination, and then completion of projects. So the work, a lot of the workload is on you. So we appreciate the time and effort you put into that. As far as the funding goes, you can see the map there, which we'll get to who can apply soon, but it kind of shows some of this funding and how it's been spread out over the years. But the program first started in 1994, and since then we've had over 650 projects completed and almost $5 million invested. So you can see the difference that that can make. We have $275,000 available each year with possible additional funds from our water conservation area. Maximum grant amount is $20,000. And then for our HOAs and crime-free multi-housing communities, there is a match of at least 25% request that is required. And then this is that same kind of map, just showing though the associations. We have 82 neighborhood associations, which you'll see by the more orange color. Those are voluntary groups. And then 134 homeowner associations registered with the city, along with our crime-free multi-housing certified properties. So what can you apply for? Key to this is that it is a capital project, and then also that it does benefit the neighborhood, not just individual property owners. And then because it is capital projects, we do have to finish those within the fiscal year it's awarded. So the city works on a fiscal year, July to June. So each of those projects have to be completed within a year by June 30th. And then what you can't apply for is for our homeowner associations that are collecting dues and other things. The maintenance is a regular part of that. So it can't be for maintenance projects. It has to be for additional enhancements. And then also it is just for the initial outlay. Any kind of maintenance or operating cost falls to the neighborhood. So again, just stressing how important community involvement is. You know, we want the community to be involved in selecting the project. They have to be notified of that opportunity to apply for a grant, provided a chance to propose, comment, really work on what should be applied for. And then understanding that everyone may not choose to engage, we want to make sure that final step of notifying the neighborhood of the final selection of the project is followed through so that no one is surprised when they see the improvement the next year if you are funded. And again, this is all online and you'll see the application form. It's pretty similar year to year. It doesn't change a whole lot, but you will see an application form that you have to turn in. You're required to go out and get bids to show that the amount you're asking for is a normal and fair price for the work being done. Pictures, you know, the grant committee will review these based on what you turn in. So anything you can turn in that helps tell your story of why it's needed or how it will improve the neighborhood is helpful. And then again, that proof that the community was involved in the grant process. And we'll go through some different completed projects. Again, we have staff to talk about specifics, but you'll see based on the project type, there's a whole other list of what is required to submit. And all of that is on our project website, which is tempe.gov/neighborhood grants. That'll have all those resources for you. We're going to have grant guidelines by project type, frequently asked questions, In past years, we had grant workshops specific to the project type, and so those are all still applicable. We've recorded those. If you want to go through and kind of get very much more details for each of the different types of what's required. And then also we will be hosting a data workshop. We do that each year, and this one will get you the date, will be held in February. But that helps you, again, tell your story of why it may be needed, and they can show you how you have access to a lot of the different city data, whether that's a shade in your neighborhood, where public art is already existing near you, a lot of great data that you can put into your application. So we get the grant, and then what happens? There is a team of staff representing various departments, pretty much every single department in the city. And they're going to go through those and evaluate the grants. They're looking at impact, they're looking for quality, the ability to complete the project. And you will see in the application that part of it is you as a neighborhood, again, telling that story of how this works. And so that's a very important piece of the grant application. But when you're looking at impact, we want to see it as accessible, equitable to all, benefits a significant number, again, of residents, complements possibly existing amenities, environmental benefit. You can highlight any kind of water, energy conservation, shade that makes the project help the neighborhood. So timeline, the grant application is out and available on our website. We do have a number of associations that have already hosted their neighborhood meetings, started that discussion in the fall, which is great. Really now, as well as into the next month, is the time to start getting feedback from city staff about those possible projects. They're a really great resource to talk through what makes a successful project and are there to help you. And then again, it is on you to get bids. So you will go around to different vendors through March and talk through that. And then you're going to start prepping that application, getting all those pieces in. The deadline is April 24th by 5 p.m. that you're going to want to submit your application. That does have to be fully complete. And then the review process is a bit lengthy, so we appreciate everyone's patience. I know everyone is eager to hear, but once it's turned in, it goes through a number of reviews, not just by the grant committee, but we have what the city calls a site plan review, just to make sure that any project is meeting city requirements as well. And so that can be a little bit lengthier process to go through. And then the final piece of that is all the recommendations do have to be approved by mayor and council, and they have to do that at a formal council meeting. So those that usually happens in July, and then you're notified of the award. So the fun part, we can talk through some of the projects that neighborhoods have completed. Here's some examples of some entry signage, and this is both for our HOAs and voluntary neighborhoods. You'll see there's differing pieces of whether size or scope and look, and so that's a great way to announce the entry to the neighborhood. For our voluntary neighborhoods, we do have our blue neighborhood identification signs. You'll see examples of those up there, and those go on top of every street topper. The city actually does those and so out of our sign shop, so that's a great way to put an identifier on your street signs. For our neighborhoods with alleys, you can put your house number on the back side of your home, as well as the front side with curbs. Fencing is also an eligible project. You see different types here. The one up top, I think we highlight every year, is one of our favorite grants, where it shows a HOA in the McClintock and Guadalupe area that was pretty much fenced in from any kind of amenities, which didn't make it too walkable. And so they actually added a pathway here as well as a fence, so that instead of having to maybe go out and try to get places on the major arterials, they can walk through the neighborhood to access shops, groceries, all of that. So it makes it a lot nicer pedestrian environment. And then just some of the others are some of our safety fencing possibly, as well as some additional fencing on existing block walls. And then some of the arterial walls has been something you can do as well. So that's looking at improving that entry to the neighborhood. And so that's just fixing them up there with some different landscape as well as aesthetics. Lighting, and so with our lighting, you can also do that as a project, whether it's pathway, community lighting. Entry lighting, you see an example of solar there, so that's a great way to highlight and make the area bright for walking at night. We get a lot of projects that do landscape. And again, this is where our staff expertise really comes in. Again, I'll have them introduce themselves in a little bit, but we do have if you're an HOA, you have a landscape plan on file with the city from when your HOA was built. So any modifications do require a little more stringent process, but we are here to help you through that. So here's some examples of HOA switching out their landscape, whether it's pulling some of the turf off the wall, which you'll see kind of on the far right there, or just fixing up entryways. Those are all eligible. And then here's some examples as well of a more straight xeriscape where you're doing some water conservation work as well. And our water conservation staff are great when working with you and really helping you with that, whether it's landscape or just irrigation or other pieces that can help you out. This is an example in one of our voluntary neighborhood associations, and we just like to show you planting the tree may not seem much when you first get the grant, but they were the first neighborhood that applied for and got awarded grants for street trees. And then you can just see the huge benefit, both in the shade canopy there, as well as just helping with some of those environmental impacts of the difference that years later can make and what those trees can provide. And then also not just your yards, but you can look at if your neighborhood borders a collector or arterial streets, which is some of our bigger ones. So the ones, for example, on the left or along College Avenue. And we've had neighborhoods also do street trees on like a McClintock or Baseline that lead into the neighborhood. And we do actually here at the city, we're lucky enough, we have an urban forester and he will help you and talk you through the right kind of tree for the right place so that we make sure that it does succeed. And then something else that the city has been exploring in one of our neighborhoods in the McClintock and Broadway area was an early installer of this is some of our green stormwater infrastructure. So this is where you're shaping what's going on there, where it naturally can thrive after getting established, which is the normal rainwater throughout a year. And so this is one over by Curry Elementary School, and you can kind of see during installation 2 years later, that once it really grows in and gets big, that it can make a big difference as well in the landscape. And then art. So for our art, if it is public art, which means it's going to be on the city's right-of-way, city property, there is a pre-qualified artist list you are required to use. And that can result in a lot of great art within our neighborhoods. If it's going to be on private property, then our public art staff are still happy to consult with you and you're welcome to use the artist list. And like I said, we have recordings on all of these and the specifics that get into much more of that, but that list is there for you to use in both cases. And we have some examples here of some of the art done. And then here you can see for some of our neighborhoods that have the flood irrigation, the standpipes are very popular to apply art to, as it is kind of a structure that lends itself. But then we've had art put in that is freestanding, that is new. You'll see that with the seating areas, the sculpture there at the end of Lemon and Dorsey, as well as even taking bike racks or benches and making them a piece of art. And then here's some more examples of the standpipes that we've had throughout the neighborhood. You can see the various applications, and also what's great about the pre-qualified artist list, it does give you access to some amazing artists with a variety of artistic styles. So you really get to choose what fits your neighborhood, and you can see that in all of these, that they're different artists and how that materializes in the art. Another one that we see a lot of grant applications come through is improvements to our city parks. The city does adopt a 5-year CIP where we're investing in park improvements. So any project, we just put this up here to remind you that it needs to complement what the city is already doing, as well as be a small enough scale that it can be done. Some of our larger park projects really requires a different level of involvement and buy-in from neighbors. So you'll see in the examples, there's some smaller scale park projects that can be done. Can be a bench, it can be exercise equipment, picnic tables, shade structure. And then key to all of this in our parks is it does have to be accessible. So sometimes the first step is an accessible path. So you'll see, and that's on the left, one of our neighborhoods put in a nice accessible path to it. We've had some very small skate park elements, grills, water fountains, dog waste bags. Bike racks, trees. Trees are always great, so you can plant trees. And then we had one of our neighborhoods put in a chess table. And then traffic calming. Again, the grants are not meant to bypass any existing city processes. So with traffic calming, we do have a neighborhood traffic manual. You will still have to meet those requirements. So for example, speed humps, there's requirements that have to do with speed, with traffic counts. You still have to meet those. You still have to go get your neighbor's signatures. They don't just get to magically appear. So all of those, our traffic staff will help you through the process, but all of those do require those. And then here's some more examples with some different roundabouts and traffic circles in our neighborhoods. And again, the idea behind the grant, someone had to think of it first. So since 1994, we've had neighbors come up with some very exciting, innovative ideas. You know, one of the neighbors had to be the first to say, hey, we want art in our neighborhood. And then it was able to happen. So I know a lot of times we'll get questions of, hey, is this a valid project? You know, sometimes we don't know till you ask. So the idea behind showing you some of these is to spur ideas, but certainly not to be meant to be all inclusive. These are just some examples of maybe some out of the box grants that we have funded, whether it's gardens, traffic mitigation studies, or Victory Acres and Escalante did a history. So every member of the community at that time got a book, and they had gone through and worked on a history of the neighborhood and talked to the original neighbors. And it's a great way to see some of the stories and to record those. So again, we just wanted to do a brief overview. I would like for our staff to introduce themselves. As I mentioned, I'm with Neighborhood Services, Shauna Warner, and then we've got some of our other Neighborhood Services staff online if they want to introduce themselves, and then we'll go through the others.
I guess okay, David McClure with Parks, so landscape architect. So anything that goes on in the parks, you'll have to contact me. Thank you.
Laura, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Laura Kaifas. I'm part of the Neighborhood Services team.
Brenda.
Hi, Brenda Clark with Neighborhood Services.
And Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Thomas. I'm also part of the Neighborhood Services team.
And I'm just going to go in order of who I see on my screen. Steve, can you say hi?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Steve Abrahamson. I'm with planning, and I can help you with landscape grants, walls, lighting, and the like. Happy to speak with you. I'll make myself available and try to help out in any way that I can. Thank you.
And Richard?
Good afternoon, Richard Adkins. I'm the arborist and the urban forester for the city. So I'm here to help you with tree selection to make sure we get the right tree in the right space to bring the benefits to the community.
And Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm the water program specialist. I can help with picking out low water use plants, high efficiency controllers, and working with some of the other staff to just develop a plan for your conversions or upgrades.
And Mike?
Yeah, hi, Mike Scarpita. I am a planner with the City of Tempe, and I mainly handle signage. So I'll be happy to help with any sign questions or proposals.
And Rebecca?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Bloom-Rothman. I'm the Public Art Manager for the City of Tempe. I'm happy to help with any of your art requests.
And Shara, I think.
Yes, Shara Nieto here with also Tempe Public Art as a specialist to help support you in getting art into your communities.
And I think we caught everyone. So really the intent of this workshop again is to leave it for you guys for some questions and answers. So if you have any, we are here as a resource. So you're welcome to unmute. We're pretty casual. We can talk through some of the grants.
You can also type a question in the chat if you're more comfortable, whatever works.
So can I just go ahead and ask questions now, I guess?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Anne, if you want to go
Yeah.
ahead and ask a question, sure.
Okay. Yeah, I sent to Laura kind of our initial draft plan. I don't know if it got spread out, but I was trying to find out. We still have more work, like we're meeting, well, we kind of went over it at our GAIN event to get kind of neighborhood, you know, ideas. And so we're having our official neighborhood meeting next on February 8th to start, really to get the official approval. And then we'll have another one on the art part to select the artist. But so this is an extension in the picture you showed of our neighborhood, the before and after. Was to extend that pathway down towards Sella Park and put another little pocket park rain garden in. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out, I sent that in advance because it's too complicated to talk online, but I was hoping that people could just take a, you know, not a detailed look, but enough of a look that I can figure out what other information I need to include in order to submit for the grant, because obviously I can't really get funding to do a plan. Luckily last time when we did our thing, somebody, you know, the people did it for free, even though they shouldn't have, you know, they actually drew out our whole plan. But I mean, I can always kind of guesstimate out the plan, but we really want to have a landscape architect involved because there's grading and on the pathway and that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, and we did get your email, and the sustainability staff and I have met, and we are kind of putting together some thoughts, and you'll be getting an email from us shortly. It's a pretty ambitious project for one grant. But yes, we are taking a look at that, and we appreciate all the work you've put in already.
Yeah, so yeah, and I will, I am meeting with Dave Farmer from schools again on Friday at 2. I don't know if you guys are interested, but it's just really to see, just the first time that they've really given me any feedback on it. But
if you
anyways,
if you want to send us that meeting information, I'll see that one of us will attend.
Pop out, yeah. And then I sent a separate, this will be real quick, I sent a separate email on the alleyway, the wide alleyway between Concordia and Aspen. And I've never really been able to figure out who can really help me with that section, or whether it should even be a grant project, or is there a little piece of it we can do as a grant project. I'd really like to figure out, there's not really a solid waste person on this team, and I don't know if it would really be in there.
Yeah,
maybe that's because
we can have a discussion, and because the alley people are going to have to get involved with the your first project that you're talking about. So we'll bring in Tamika, and if she needs to bring in folks above her, then we'll do that. So it's better that we just focus on your first project. Right now, it's pretty ambitious as it is, as opposed to going to the year following. That who knows what'll be happening by then, right?
Yeah, well, it's complicated enough where you would have that next year project would be complicated enough where SRP and maybe other utilities would have to be involved, and there might be a lead time on it. So sometimes there is like a long lead time. This project that we're doing this year isn't quite as complicated as it might seem because we've done a similar one. So, you know, we have a lot of the data from that. So, but we still have to price it. It could be pricey. So anyways, okay, thank you.
You bet. Anybody else? Who do we have?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. I'm Lee Jacobs from Corona del Sol Estates.
Hi, Lee. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're from our GAIN meeting, there was some interest in doing a project potentially about the entrance monument signage. And so the neighborhood association board's started talking about that. I wonder, we're a little bit concerned about the schedule because we haven't really gotten started. And want to understand the intent of the neighborhood involvement and communication, but from a practical standpoint, is there some criteria that we need to submit to document that we do that? And my concern is, we can, I think, if I understand right, the city would be able to maybe do a mailer.
Correct.
And we have another meeting, but then I know we'll get only a certain percentage of attendance at that meeting. And then from there, we don't have a good communication process to reach, all 200 homes. So is it kind of a natural down selective involvement from those who attend the first meeting and provide their contact information, or, what's the expectation on how we maintain that engagement and show that people in fact had opportunity to be involved in the final selection process and all that?
Sure. And so like, for example, Lee, I was at your meeting and we had sent out the mailer and it was identified there that you were going to talk about a neighborhood grant, right? So that first step is always, hey, our neighborhood's eligible for a grant, bring ideas, let's talk about it, which you guys certainly did. And from there, like you said, those who want to be involved will give ideas. But then that's why we also provide you that resource. We don't expect you to do it all yourself or try to knock on every single door. So we're there to help you out, and we can send another mailer like you referenced saying, hey, we met, we talked, this is, the neighborhood's looking at applying to update our entry signage or our entryway or whatever the end result might be. And just providing, again, if you have any thoughts or ideas or questions, to reach out. So it's just keeping them in the loop and informed as you progress through those steps. And again, we're here as a resource to help you do that. So we can help make that lift a little easier. And that's where we can send it, make sure all the households get it instead of maybe just those who might have opted into an email list or anything like that. So.
Yeah, and then maybe in that communication, we could say, if you're interested in remaining involved.
Absolutely, yeah.
Email, and then if they don't, they don't. Is that kind of?
Yeah, we can't force everyone to, but we can at least tell them about it, so.
Okay. Yeah, and then after talking, there's probably 2 or 3 other projects that people might be interested in. So I think we would have to go through some kind of a down selector prioritization or get some more input from the neighbors. So that's where we're a little concerned about the schedule.
Well, and that's where sometimes the schedule informs what you end up doing, right? What can you get done between now and April?
And that's one of my next thoughts. So the blue signs have been brought up before. That seems like it would be a fairly easy one.
We give you how much they cost, and once the neighborhood agrees they want them, you're done. So yeah, the blue signs actually are a great way to start off grant projects, or if you're looking for like a quicker, easier one, maybe those are great.
Yeah. Is that something
as well as it brings up a good point. You guys are eligible each year, so.
Is that something you can send me the estimate, or does that come after the application?
Nope, we'll send it out to you, Lee. Yeah.
Okay, if you do that, that would be great.
Shauna, can I add one point on that though? This is Elizabeth with Neighborhood Services. For the blue signs, the only extra step is you would need to identify all of the spots in the neighborhood that have signage, because it would go above existing signage. If there isn't a sign there, they wouldn't put up a new one, but it would go above existing street signs. So you would just have a simple map, maybe with dots or something showing locations of signs. And then we would verify the price per sign. It typically includes installation and manufacture. The signs would be blue and white, and they would just get clarification if you wanted to or could fit a tree that represents the neighborhood on your signs. Some of the neighborhoods with bigger names, longer, more letters, choose just to have the name of the neighborhood. So that's the only clarification. And one additional thing I wrote down when we were going through the project examples, if you were any of the neighborhoods on here were to opt for an alley numbering project, you would be responsible for getting your own quotes for that. Sometimes high school booster clubs do it. There's also some private sign companies that like to do that and do nice work. Thank you.
Okay.
And Lee, that also brings up a good point. I just put the link in the chat, but all of our previously funded grants, we do post online. So you can see the vendors they used, you can see how they submitted it. So it shows like a good example of the map Elizabeth's referencing. So that's also a great resource. Because as a city, we can't recommend vendors unless it's on city property like a park. You're kind of on your own. So that shows you who your neighbors have used, who they've found to give quotes. And so that can be a really good resource as well.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. I don't know if anybody else has questions. I won't take up all the time. The other one I was interested in, tell me if it's on the website and I'll find it. I haven't searched it thoroughly yet, but the shade tree projects, we were talking about that amongst the board, but we weren't quite clear on exactly how that works.
Yeah, there's great examples. Broadmoor has been funded the last 2 years. And I can send them directly to you, Lee. And then as Richard mentioned, we can give you his direct contact, but what's important is he can help you with what type of tree will do well, because each neighborhood's a little different, right? Depending on your watering source, what's traditionally been there and all that. So he's great to help you with that. And they show examples of how they even ask who wants a tree, where the trees are planted, what types of tree. And so that those were street trees on the individual homes, but then we've also had neighborhoods do trees like along the more like I don't know that Lakeshore goes through the neighborhood, but you know, some of the smaller streets. So we can, there's side yards. So you can figure that out and see.
Yeah, we have some
good examples.
Side yards and front yards, but it's all, you know, owner property.
Yep, that's allowed because trees have a public benefit for everyone. So if you plant a tree, it helps everyone.
Does everyone just indicate if they want a tree or not? And that's how it goes?
Yep.
Okay.
We can.
Richard will help you set those parameters of, do you want a tree, but pick from these species. It's not a free for all.
Right. And the placement's up to each homeowner, or?
They'll help you with that because you want to avoid water lines, you want to avoid, you know, so they actually will help you with all that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Barb had a question she typed in the chat. She was asking about traffic calming. And Barb, I'm sorry to say, I don't think we have anyone today from traffic. Kathy, who's in charge of that area, has a family emergency today, so she's not able to join us, but we're happy to help connect you depending on what you want to do with the right staff. So just let us know and we can make that happen. Let's see.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay, this is Ryan and I'm with Estate La Colina on Warner and McClintock there. And I was just curious, could you guys clarify the longevity of the grants and what is, because this grant program has been going on for so many years and there are only so many neighborhood associations, you just clarify that you cannot reapply for a grant you've already received, say 30 years ago. Is that correct?
Correct. They aren't for maintenance. No, there may be. So for example, we've had neighborhoods that might have done improvements. So you guys might have done improvements along McClintock with landscape. It doesn't mean you can't come back 20 years later and plant trees that are different, right? And that complement. So we have had associations that apply for a similar, but it wouldn't be, for example, oh, the trees died and now we're going to go in or the plants died and go in and put some more or whatever it may be.
Okay, so it'd have to be, so for example, if we painted our exterior walls and now we want to potentially add artwork to those, that would be a separate, something different.
Yes, so improvement to the wall with art or something else, yes, would be a different improvement, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
And for walls, murals are not really covered by neighborhood grants, is my understanding, right? It would have to be like metal art if you're gonna do wall art. Is that true?
We'll let Rebecca answer that, but I believe murals still are eligible, yeah?
They are eligible, but keep in mind that if they're done on privately owned walls, like alley walls, the homeowners would have to maintain them because it would not be on city-owned property. We'll still consult and help facilitate the process, but we cannot maintain that as a public artwork.
And what would you want to see for commitment, you know, in the grant application, if you did any kind of artwork, I guess, on a private wall that was, say, along an alley? I mean, would we get letters from the homeowners, or what commitment?
Yeah, they would have to agree to their private wall being changed in any way, yes.
And you'll see that for any of those that include, your wall is your private property, so you can't for anything.
Yeah.
Signage, art, painting, that property owner has to actually sign off. And it's the property owner, not necessarily who lives there. So that can be some legwork of figuring out exactly who that is.
Yeah, well, I meant for commitment for maintaining it. What would you want to see in the project or in the grant application as far as guarantees that that it's going to be maintained? Or would you just want to see that if you're using a public artist, that they're using the right material so that it would be, you know, have as much longevity as possible, say for a mural, the right material like sun protection or whatever, the paints or stuff? Would that be good enough? Or
if you were to receive the grant, the contract that we would have in place between the artist and the city would spell out the contractual obligations of the city in terms of the longevity of the mural. In other words, we would say our recommendations are to use paint that, you know, has a lifespan beyond X amount of years, with an understanding that the city will not be maintaining this work. I'll let Laura and Shauna and ET expand in terms of what you would need to see in the grant application itself.
Sure. In the grant application, there is a section asking how the neighborhood would maintain it. And so that would be up to you then to either, you know, how you would address that either through the artist. But as you know, Rebecca brings up a point as well, for anything done on private property, there is a acceptance of the funds, if you will, from the city. And then that does spell out exactly that. It is similar to a contract where it will tell you everything that you're responsible for. And honestly, with that, it's probably going to be up to the artist to guide you in how you would want to maintain it, because that's, again, not our expertise, but they should be able to tell you that. And then on review, it kind of be seen whether that meets standards.
And if I can share, there have been some really successful neighborhood projects that have been done this way. Palmdale Manor has a piece that faces Mill that's really lovely, and the neighborhood has had to do some maintenance because it's been out there for a while, and as with all things, it started to have some issues, and they're fixing it to maintain it as part of their neighborhood. So it is possible. I don't want to be discouraging of it. Just be aware of that as an issue.
Okay, Richard, did you maybe want to address, Barb is asking how you figure out where trees can go in a yard, or Steve, as far as knowing where sewer and water lines are?
Well, just briefly, Barb, we can look at each of the property along the sidewalk area and try to decide where we were looking to put the trees there. And before we make the final decision, we would have them all blue staked so that all the utilities would be marked. So then we would know exactly where the water and the sewer lines are, and then we can adjust it there as needed.
And then Dave, there was a question for the garbage bins. Are you open to some clever art on cans or words to encourage people using them?
On the parks garbage cans?
Yes, so she says
Barrels?
park patrons aren't using the garbage bins. Can you use clever art on cans like Feed Me?
again, I think that would fall on Rebecca's, I have no issue with it, but I think, yeah, would they hire, I guess they would have to get an artist on board as well to paint the garbage cans. I assume they would have to be the barrels and not the perforated ones that we use and or the dual trash recycle ones we use. But if they're on the barrels, I have no issue with that.
The only issue that I could see is, and this would be a conversation with the artist, is that they're the materials go beyond just paint on metal simply because the parks are irrigated and that will fall apart. So we would work with the neighborhood and the artist if there's an artist that wants to take on that challenge.
I have another question. Again, this is Ryan with ELC. Can you split up the grant funds? Like, could a neighborhood apply for 2 small grants the same year to equal that 20,000?
Yeah, great question. Yes, you can. So you can't exceed the 20,000, but yeah, you could apply for a $5,000 project and a $15,000 project. The only thing we ask from the neighborhood is you let us know what your first choice is. There's times when we have more requests for funding than we have funding. So if it kind of gets, and not saying that both wouldn't be successful, but if it did come down to it, we don't want to have to make that choice for you. And or sometimes you'll see grants, they'll get partial. So for example, if they wanted to plant 80 trees, they might be funded to plant 60 depending on funding availability. But yes, you can. And did anyone have any other questions?
This is Elizabeth again. I would just add to the trees. It reminded me when we were talking about painting in alleys. The trees do require signature of what we call a tree pledge by the homeowners that are going to get a tree in their front or side yard. And that just requires them to commit to taking on the care and maintenance of the tree. That can also include pruning if it's getting into sidewalk area and such. I mention this because some of the tree grants, sometimes the folks who are filling out the application go big, and it can be hard to predict. There's an assumption that everyone is going to want to take on that responsibility, and that just isn't always the case. Some folks are leery of adding a tree to their yard, but they're great grants and it's just a pledge. You know, we understand stuff can happen to trees, but it's just to get folks to affirm the responsibility for the care of the tree. And the nurseries are very good about providing with Richard directions for the care and maintenance of the tree. Thank you.
Hey, this is Ann. One other note on trees and pruning. I don't, that when you do like a tree grant, is there clinics that they give maybe for whoever can attend to discuss pruning, because that can be especially important when they're younger to, you know, develop the tree structure. And also, as far as trees go, you know, when you drive around neighborhoods, sometimes you'll see huge, say, mesquite trees, which, you know, cost a fortune for arborists to prune. You know, some of these trees actually, you know, the homeowner can't prune it themselves. So there is actually some decisions that people may want to know about in advance, education, you know, before they get specific trees in their yard. Also, I don't know if you guys do this kind of thing, but I do it in my yard. I've got a lot of, my sewer line goes right through my front or my backyard, my backyard for my sewer, my water for my front. So I don't want any huge trees that have big roots too close to that. So I've actually take trees such as hopseed and Mexican bird of paradise and prune those. That they're usually bushes, right? But you can prune those as small trees, and those are more, they actually can get, you know, 10 foot tall, and they are fairly easy easily prunable by a homeowner. So I guess I just want to point out those options because I don't see that as much around the city. But I kind of learned about that by just going through it, like Mayo Clinic had a bunch of bushes pruned as trees. So just there's a lot involved in putting trees in, and they're not successful because like who can afford, like my neighbor's pruning bill was $1,500 every 3 years to prune her large mesquite trees. So anyways.
Richard, did you want to take? Here you are.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, and to your original question, yes. There's grants that we've worked with where part of the grant is that I will come out and I will do a neighborhood workshop. And of course, we do workshops throughout the year in the city. We have a lot of them recorded and they're on the Water Conservation website that people can always refer back to those. And like I said, if you want to make it part of the grant, I would come out, meet with the community, and we could do a whole tree workshop there. And happy to help you. And like even after the fact and it's planted, I still work with a couple of communities. The homeowners will call me up, send me pictures, and I can help them through any type of, you know, pruning, maintenance needs that they might have.
Thank you, Richard. Any other questions before we wrap up? Oh, that's an interest. Okay, so Rebecca, you see Ryan's asking, are we able to put art on neighborhood light posts? Thinking on the bottom third of the post.
It's a really good question. From the art side of things, I don't see that as being an issue, but I would need to also have probably engineering weigh in on that since we don't maintain the light posts. I don't know if anybody, I don't think any staff is on right now, but it would be a collective conversation. From an arts perspective, I think it's a great idea. But again, it would really rely on whether they say yes or no to that.
Yeah,
okay, so that would be like the city. We could elaborate a little bit more if I emailed you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the other question I would have is, are you talking about a metal light post or are you talking about those that have like a concrete aggregate base? Because
they're mostly the metal ones in our neighborhood and they're like kind of rusting out on that bottom part. So I thought instead of paint, like maybe a wrap.
Here's something, this is where I think we'd want to have a larger conversation with our engineering team because artwork won't save rusting. We don't want to use artwork to take care of something that's falling apart like that. But I think it's a worthwhile conversation. So if you want to email me, I can see who to forward it on to, and we can kind of see what we can do to address that.
Okay, appreciate it.
Can I point something out on those light posts though? Because sometimes the street light burns out and I put in requests and as opposed to being a street light burnout, it's actually a repair issue for say SRP. And so I think probably it's going to be a maintenance issue to have artwork on the pole, but I'm not sure. And I also one time asked about maybe instead of just having a stop sign to see if I could maybe have a decorative stop sign, but traffic engineering said, nah, I don't think so.
Traffic signs are a little bit different. We need to follow all of our safety protocols. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, there was one in the middle of the road, you know, so there was three actually. One was in the middle of the road, but eventually they just took the one out in the middle of the road because it kept getting hit by a bus, you know, so anyways.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate all the questions. All of us are available throughout the entire process. All of our direct contact again is on the website, including those for the specific types of projects and those who couldn't be here today. Barbara will connect you anyway, but traffic engineering's contact is on there as well as those guidelines for how to follow through those processes. And we will have this recording online in a few days as well, if anyone wants to refer back to it as well. And we appreciate everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.